Tacoma door panels have to be one of the easiest door panels I've ever removed. The only problem is these clips always break. I don't know why, but they break all the time. So if you do have a broken clip, here is the part number. That is the part number for these clips right here. I ordered 4. Every one of my doors missing them. And it'll save you the headache of trying to find that part number if you don't have it. So on the door handle, you'll have a little false cap that comes out. Just be gentle with this stuff. And there's a Phillips. And we're starting with the rear because I want to make sure that I get my methods down and start laying down the Dynamat the way I like it. So when I do the fronts, it's a lot cleaner. Not that this will be any worse, but we'll just make sure that the overall job is amazing on the front doors. All right, so there's gonna be 2 clips at the top that you wanna make sure are off. And after that's done, just got a few wires. I'll show you this real quick. So there's gonna be 3 tabs right here. You can see I've been in here before because 2 of them are missing. They actually fell down to the bottom, and I knew I was gonna be doing this job eventually, so I didn't bother buying any because I know you can see they're very loosely in there and they'll fall. So I'll go ahead and retrieve those later. Now, you're gonna have this plastic barrier. This is pretty much a water barrier to keep the moisture in the door panel and not come into the cab. We're going to be completely removing that. The Dynaliner is actually the new barrier for insulation, and keeping the vapor inside is actually water resistant. I've already upgraded the speakers. So these are some Infinities. The front has components, which I'll show you in a second, but these are not amped. When we did the floor, I amped the front door speakers at 100 watts each, and they sound amazing. But the rear, you typically never amp, so I didn't waste my time doing that. And I just upgraded them because the stock ones are horrendous. But if you're looking to save a couple bucks, you don't need to buy rear speakers. You need to focus on the front because acoustically, you want the sound coming from front to back. Anyways, let's continue on with this project. Man, this stuff is not easy to take off. Anyways, it did its job. You can see there's some dust building up here, and it was keeping everything inside. But, oh, look, there's one of those white clips. You see it? I knew it was down there. Anyways, you can see where we've got the drain holes, factory. There's little covers on those. I don't know why this one doesn't have one. But we will go ahead and get all of this wiped down. It's really dusty. We need to get it cleaned. I'm not going to try to take all of this off 100%, but we'll try to take most of it off. But man, these doors, they just sound horrendous. It sounds so cheap. It's crazy. And it feels like a paperweight. It doesn't even have any weight to it. So we'll get that changed right now. Pro tip, do not lose these. These go between these white washers and the metal. So if you're finding some odd rattles after you do this job, you might have missed one. You can kind of see the outline right there. So it prevents the door panel from rattling with the vibrations. But we still need to do a proper wipe down with the 99% isopropyl alcohol, and that will get it ready for the Dynamat. This is going to be the bulk pack. The first pack we used in the truck was the mega pack. That's 72 square foot, and this is going to be 36 square foot. Now, unfortunately, since I took a long time to do this project, the Dynamat has changed. So this is the new look. If you watch my 2 first videos on this project, you'll see that it looks different. So I'm going to use all of this on the doors. That way, at least the doors match and the rest of the cab matches on its own. Ultimately, it does not matter at all because we will be coating it with Dynaliner, and you're going to be seeing this, not the Dynamat. But anyways, 36 square foot should be more than enough. And when we're done, we'll know exactly how much we didn't use so that I can get proper totals for everything. and we'll be doing essentially the same thing. If I do need to make some holes, we'll be using these as punches. If I need to use the transfer tape, I'll draw everything out, cut that out, and then trace it on the Dynamat, cut it out with the blade, and that's pretty much it. Last thing would be these guys, which we're going to throw on the back speakers. So this is going to bolt up right here, and it's going to essentially focus all of the speaker noise straight into the door panel right here. So it's going to complete the seal, so that way we're not getting speaker lost in the door panel and it's punching straight out. We have the first piece on the inner door skin installed, and you can already hear a huge difference versus what I did before. Even the top sounds better, and it hasn't even been Dynamated. This is really hard to do compared to everything else because you're in a cavity, so you only have this much room. You can see I've already got scratches on my arm. I've even cut my knuckle. This metal is ridiculously thin. I might even just put an edge trim on it for now, just to be safe. But we're gonna keep going. So we're looking for resonance like this. We're gonna put this strip that I just cut on the inside because this is not covered by anything. The door panel just goes out to right here, but we're trying to get 90-95% coverage, so the stuff that is shown on the outside will be Dynamating on the inside. Okay, so you can see that we applied it on the inside, and this is the noise that it's now making. Much less resonance than it did before. Here is the first cut of the inner door skin. So we've got a circle right there punched out top and bottom for the door panel clips, and we've got a little bit of clearance for that 10 mil nut, but it's not covering that opening. Some people cover it completely with Dynamat. I'm not going to do that for a few reasons. One, it's wasteful of material in my opinion, and two, we're putting Dynaliner over the whole outer door or the inner door panel, which is this stuff, and this is water resistant, so it's going to be the same as what the plastic liner was doing originally. So we'll save a bunch of material here. That's on 2 doors, and I'm sure the front doors are going to have even bigger ones than these back doors. One door complete, inner and outer door skin, as much as I'm going to do. So my whole goal on this was 90 to 95% coverage, which we've done. The reason I didn't get a little bit more in depth right here is because there's a metal bracket that bolts here. I'm painting it right now because for whatever reason it comes in raw metal. The rear door speakers aren't amped, so I'm not going super crazy right here. The factory radio barely puts out any power to them, so it doesn't really matter in the long run. I did order some butyl rope that needs to go in between here and in between these bars. You can hear there's a lot of resonance. So we'll be doing that before we get to put the Dynaliner on and cover the whole deal. Okay, here we are a few days later. I actually picked up some butyl tape. So let me open this up and show you guys what it is. But basically, it's a tar-like substance. It's butyl, and it can be rolled into like a 1/4 inch thick, actually like spherical tape, which I'm going to do either 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch. But you basically shove it in between here, and you eliminate the resonance between this bar and the outer panel. So these are really, really resonant, and they have just like some small dabs of silicone or whatever this is, some foam from the factory, but it moves a lot. I mean, you can see that this whole bar is completely separated from the door, and you can also put it between here and here because this is pretty much inaccessible. And you can see from the factory it's got another dab, but if that dabs anything like this, it's pretty much useless. So we're going to get this rolled up, shove it in as much as we can, and just get this door fully sealed before we put the Dynaliner onto it. Okay, so this is super hard to get on camera because it's inside of the door, but this is the strip. I've been cutting it in half with scissors, and that's for this smaller area. So the gap on here is really small. It's, I don't know, 1/8 inch or smaller. We do need to keep it at the full length and roll it out a little bit thin for this big gap on the door. But for now, I have to roll this out just a little bit, and I'll show you how I've been kind of just pressing it into that gap all the way across. So I just like to get it started just a bit and get everything kind of set up and ready to press. And I did top and bottom. This is a little bit overkill, but I've kind of done this whole project overkill anyways, so might as well do the whole thing. So we're just about set up here, and you can see when you press it in, it just goes into that crack, and then you kind of lose the material. And you can keep pressing in and pushing how much you want, but you're really just preventing the resonance. Okay, so I'm gonna do this all the way down, and then we'll see what it sounds like after. Side note, here's a little trick I just realized doing that lower one is you could kind of roll up this material if you get it too thick, and then just shove it down. So just roll it all up and just shove it back down, and then you get a cleaner look overall compared to that. And now we have a much better looking product. Ultimately, it'll be getting covered up with Dynaliner, but I just didn't want it looking so bulky. And bonus, we got a bunch more material shoved up by taking that extra time. This is before with no butyl rope. And here's after the butyl rope. Alright, with this finally being done, we are ready to put the Dynaliner on. So this is 1/8 inch thick Dynaliner. This is the actual sound dampening material, and we're gonna put a skim coat all the way in from top to bottom on the inside. We're gonna put a coat out here all the way across the whole door, and then we can put the door panel on, call this door done. Time out. As I was sticking my head up in here to measure, I realized we have one more bar up here, one more little reinforcement bar. So I went ahead and I covered it all with some more butyl rope all the way down, very, very top edge. So now, take two. We are finally complete on this. Let's get some Dynaliner on. And this is the final time we're gonna do any work on the outer door skin. This is done. We've got all of the 1/8 inch Dynaliner as far as I can get it, all the way around the tube, and that is the after sound. Now that we've got the final coat of soundproofing on, which is the Dynaliner, this is done. So as I stated before, this is your new vapor barrier, your water barrier between the door and the inside of the cab. We cut around for the speaker, cut around for the door handle brace, and I did paint this because it was raw silver and rusty, so painted that black real quick. And just before we throw the door panel on, I did go around with some extras I had and put just a little bit more of the Dynaliner 1/8 inch just in some of the key spots that are gonna have some resonance. And we'll do that to all the other door panels, but right now we are going to throw the speaker on, the door panel on, and we'll get some before and after knocking on the side door and seeing what it sounds like. Here we have the speaker bolted up, and I wanted to show you a few things. One, I just put a little bit of the Dynaliner right here, so there's no rattling from that clip. Before, I had actually double-sided taped this to the frame really good, but this will be fine. Now, if you're seeing this rubber silicone deal, this is what I had mentioned in the very first video that's actually going to help seal the speaker to the door panel. So the door panel is ideally going to squish this a bit, and you're channeling all that speaker out into the cab instead of getting lost into the door panel. And then these ridges right here are foldable, so you can physically, let's see, so there's 4 of them. There's 4, and I ended up right here I folded 2, but I ended up pulling it back all the way out and just folded 1 in. There's plenty of room in there, and so that helps channel the reverse hit into the door, and then the speaker sound is going to go into the cab. And so this is how it looks without it, and you can see if you're going to put it on, it just channels everything to the proper space, I guess you can say. And those are actually not very expensive, so I got those on Amazon, but the door is actually looking really good. I can't wait to get the door panel back on this thing. All right, now check this out. That's just hitting the door panel. Even the door panel sounds completely different. And of course, like I showed you, I put a little bit on the door panel itself, but huge difference. Now we just have 3 more doors to do. This is before. And here's the sound after. And we got the passenger side rear door complete onto the front doors. So with the front doors, we're going to do the passenger front first, and then we'll do the driver door. I don't want to take that apart because it has a master switch for all the windows. So we'll do this in one shot, and we'll do that one in one shot. This is going to be very similar as far as removal goes, except instead of that little push pin here, we got it here in the front. And this one, we'll see if it's broken or not. Yep, it's broken. It's got 2 of the little flanges missing, so I ended up getting I think I got a few in the bag with some spares. But we've got this little false cap here. And then another false cap right here. And you've got this little plastic deal right here. This one's going to have the white clips that are very similar to the black piece that was right here. So what you want to do is actually push these two tabs in, pull them out, and then load it back up onto this piece. I forgot to mention that on the rear door instructions, but it's the same concept. Just pull them out. If you try to push this piece on with those in there, they'll just fall into the door. So this one's loaded, ready for install. So from here, there are no more screws. We're just going to go ahead and pull the panel so it pops. There we go. Slide it up. And then we need to disconnect plugs. That was harder than it needed to be. Anyways, we're gonna have the door panel here. It's nice and dirty. Make sure that you've got all the black washers that go around here. You can see I'm missing one, but it is actually on the door. So we'll transfer that over. Oh, it just tore off to put another one. I've got some spares of those as well. And as you can see, I've actually been in here before when I installed the component speakers. The component speaker is a true mid with a crossover for the filter, high and low. And it's actually a true high and low, unlike the factory setup, which was very weird and just sounded horrendous. Now, bolting in the speakers only with the stock radio was a good upgrade. I'll give it that. But it 100% needs the speakers to be amped. After I did the amp install with 100 watts each, these speakers really came alive. So that's just one thing to keep in mind if you're going to be swapping out these components when you're in here doing the sound deadening yourself. Let's get in here and see what Toyota's up to. So right away, I noticed we got this big piece right here. It looks like it's just a big chunk of styrofoam. We did get the plastic scraper out and just scraped off all this extra butyl. This is the same material that we shoved in the door bar right here on the back door. But I ordered obviously aftermarket butyl, but factory they put butyl all the way around here. I think everything else looks pretty solid. It's really resonant in here. Everything kind of shakes, but nothing surprising. Just a slightly larger version than the back door. It's a little bit longer. Hopefully I could use some of these. Oh look, there's actually one square of sound deadening on the front door. So they put this styrofoam and one patch. Awesome. Here's the scrap pile from a bunch of miscellaneous pieces. So all of these are exact copies of what I put inside the door in all of these smaller areas. And those other ones is just another stack of pieces that I put inside. So we're going all the way up in the hard to reach areas. I even went back over there through and got some on the hard to reach places, but this is gonna be complete. Okay guys, just like the rear door, getting one huge piece in was really hard, but it's always worth it in my opinion, because this is one big door skin and you kind of want any moisture, if there is, to kind of roll down. So at first this piece only met up to this little crack right here where the butyl rope was. So I peeled it back and lifted it up, and I added this lower piece, rolled it to that crack, and then rolled this down so it's all going, you know, this is over the lower part and it's all going down. As you can see, I got cuts everywhere. This stuff is super sharp, and there's just no getting around it. But we put Dynaliner on all of the pieces of the Dynamat that were in the door, so the outer skin is 100% done. Now we can focus our efforts onto the inner door skin and do it all over again on the driver door.
Will you choose to believe?
All right guys, we've got one completed door up front. Obviously you've seen how we do the rear. The front was very similar, but just a little different as far as cuts go, because it's a slightly longer door, built a little bit different. But anyways, Dynamat Dynaliner on the inner door skin, Butyl Rope, just like we did on the rear doors. Dynamat Dynaliner on the inner door skin. Speakers reinstalled. Obviously it's a crossover setup like I mentioned before, and we've got a speaker baffle installed. This wasn't on there before, so this is going to fully seal onto the door panel and channel all of that speaker into the cab and not get lost in any of the door panel. Speaking of the door panel, we have to treat it a little bit with some Dynamat and Dynaliner, and then I could pop it back on. On the rear doors, I didn't put any Dynamat, we only installed Dynaliner. But on the front doors, I decided to put some Dynamat down first and then cover it with the Dynaliner, which you see here. So that's just going to absorb some more of the sound coming from the amped 6x9s, where again in the rear it is not amped, so I didn't think it was that important of a step to take. But either way, we're just about done and we can get these installed. So now we get to pop this on, and we're almost on the home stretch of finishing this whole project. All we have now is the driver door left to do, which I did save a bunch of templates from this, so it should be way quicker. Popped in. It's good that it has some resistance. That just means that it's really pressed up against that seal. And now put in the main door bolt. Oh, by the way, I tested the speakers to make sure that they worked before I put this on. Just kind of a heads up so you don't do all this work and have to take it all back apart. This slides down right here and then clicks in the front. Easy. Got one more Phillips right here. I like to use hand tools on these. Some people use electric, but it's all threading into plastic, so I just go by feel and snug it up just a bit. On this piece, I did add an extra piece of foam strip. This was stock, but there's nothing on this side, so I figured might as well. And I did remove these clips from the door panel when we first took it off and loaded it onto this piece. So that's easy. And a brand new clip because these always break. And that wraps up the front door. Well, we are coming to the very end of this sound deadening project, and man, what a project it has been. So part one, we did the back cab, figured out how the material laid out, figured out what I wanted to do as far as cutting and using the punches for certain things, you know, as far as bolts go and clips and whatnot. From there, we did the floor, the roof, and that was a huge job. And now we're just finishing up the doors. Obviously, I've got one more left to do, but while I was cutting the bigger pieces for the passenger door, I saved all the templates. So I've got a lot of parts already cut ready for this door. So we're just going to blaze through this one real quick off camera. And then I'm going to do one more part of this series, and that's going to be total costs, how much time I put into it, how many days we spent working on this, do I think it was worth it, and how much weight did we add in materials, and most importantly, before and after sound decibel readings. So I'm going to wrap that all in one, but we'll do that after my road trip. So that 8-hour drive there and back, I will be able to really get my own personal thoughts as far as was this project worth it or not, and would I ever do it again? Would I recommend it to you guys? And would I recommend these products to you guys? So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. If you haven't watched the other parts already, go ahead and check them out right here.